Hello everyone. In this video, I would like to describe a construction of a commode. The idea behind it was to have a good time while making it, as well as to create a practical piece of furniture. I also would like to discuss the time required, as well as how much money was spent on materials and components. So, let's start. Undoubtedly, it's necessary to start manufacturing of the object with thinking over the construction as well as preparing drawings. To proceed to the design, I tried to make the largest possible drawer, which will subsequently define the dimension of the entire device. Dimensions of the plywood pieces, as well as how large parts could be placed into my car, have defined the dimension of the whole commode. Manufacturing of the drawer began with cutting the plywood with help of a plunge saw and a guide rail into workpieces. After that, on each side panel a quarter is cut using a rotor table for gluing the bottoms of the drawers. All parts of the boxes will be coated with oil, so it's necessary to sand the workpieces and cover the places to be glued with a masking tape. It was decided to paint the inner parts of the drawers before gluing and assembly. That allowed to paint the inner corners as well as significantly reduces the sanding, because you can sand the plane with the help of a sanding machine, and you don't need to sand the corners with your hands. Also, considering the amount of surface to be covered with oil, it became very convenient to use a roller. And moreover, the roller can be stored in the airtight bag and it doesn't dry out for more than a week. The plywood absorbs oil very strongly, and the wood pile rises after the oil cures, so the parts were sanded a little with a low-grade sandpaper afterwards. When all the parts are ready, the boxes are assembled with glue and screws. The bottom is glued in place and secured with clamps to prevent it from shifting when it is pressed with water containers. When the glue has dried, the clamps can be removed, and the same operation should be done for all the other boxes. Since I filmed the whole process, I can magically replicate the whole processes. Next, it is necessary to make the commode body itself. The side walls are made of ash wood, which should contrast with the beech facades. These panels are cut to the required size, then sanded and also covered with oil. This type of wood shows the texture very beautifully when oiled. Another sheet is cut into strips for the bars between the drawers, as well as into sections of the bottom plate for the commode. The bottom plate was made glued from 3 parts, because it's allowed to save a little wood, as well as to reduce the weight of the whole construction. Because after estimating the dimensions, I was afraid that it could turn out to be very heavy. For this purpose, I made small grooves with help of the rotor and glued the whole thing together with clamps to the tabletop. While this part is curing, I started assembling the construction of the commode and the rails for installing the boxes. I divided the upper drawer into 2 components for storing small things. Of course, considering the overall size of the commode, it's difficult to call it a drawer for small things. After making and installing the center divider, I created holes for fixturing with the slotted screws to hide the mounting of the bar to the side panels. I then chamfered the assembled parts to get a nice chamfer transition from one part to another. The chamfer is then finished a bit by hand. Similar operations are done with the rest of the bars that separate the drawers. Last of all, the facades are made. They are cut from the sheet of a beech wood and then sanded and oiled. Here, all preparation works are finished, and taking into account the dimension of the product, the assembly is necessary to make on the spot. Therefore, all parts are transformed to the flat, and the assembly process begins. The guides for the drawers are screwed onto the side walls according to the pre-marked and pre-drilled positions. After that, the side walls are screwed to the base by the means of the slotted screws. For adding stability, an additional blade is inserted at the bottom of the bag to join the side walls together. The slotted screw didn't allow to install the guide for the lower drawers, so they were installed afterwards. Now, the dividers between the drawers as well as the center divider for the 2 upper drawers are installed. After that, the rear wall, the drawers and the tabletop are mounted on the place. And while I'm doing all this, I would like to summarize the time and money spent on this commode. You can see a table with the major material costs on the screen. Of course, the commode is not cheap because it is made of wood and it has an expensive hardware. It's also not difficult to buy a ready-made commode, which would be much cheaper and which can be assembled during the evening in the flat. I consider it as a hobby that allows me to make a useful item. I do it to learn new technologies and to expand my toolbox because I enjoy doing it. The time it took to build this commode was about 2 weeks. This because the drawer is quite large, so they had to be painted and glued one by one. Also, each component has to be painted from both sides. All this was done in my free time on the evenings or during weekends. In my opinion, it's not a big time and money expenses for such a unique furniture. In general, I really like the way it looks, especially the combination of a beech and ash woods. And I hope this style should suit for a lot of interiors. And that's all for now. Thank you for your attention. See you in the next videos. Bye.